General equipment packages are being increasingly used in process plants. The content and complexity of these packages vary significantly, from very simple fabricated skid-mounted units to large, complicated proprietary units. This diversity means that a unique approach regarding the scope of supply for instrumentation cannot be defined. Historically, the approach involved the procurement and installation of instrumentation by the contractor or principal. This method aimed to achieve maximum standardization and quality control, but did not always apply to all equipment package arrangements, and did not result in reduced total cost of ownership, TCOO. An instrument specification for an equipment package is dependent on several factors: the type of equipment package, the extent to which specific instrumentation requirements must be applied, the competence of the vendor. To address this, various scope of supply options for instrumentation are introduced. These options are designed to guide the contractor in specifying requirements in the requisition at the design stage of the project once a particular scope of supply option has been selected. Scope of supply for instrumentation. Scope of supply options. Table 1 provides a comparative overview of the different scope of supply options, each detailing the vendor's scope and competence. Option A: field instruments installed which are an integral part of the proprietary equipment. The vendor provides the functional specification, special tools, special test equipment, drawings, and documents. The vendor's competence is limited to instrumentation considered an integral part of the proprietary equipment. Option B: field instruments installed which are an integral part of the proprietary equipment and any required instrument installation materials. The vendor's scope includes the functional specification, special tools, special test equipment, drawings, documents, and installation materials as specified on the engineering documentation. The vendor's competence covers instrumentation that is integral to the proprietary equipment and the installation of the installation materials. Option C: field instruments supplied and installed according to the principal's standards. The vendor provides the functional specification, special tools, special test equipment, drawings, and documents. The vendor must be deemed competent by the principal to meet these standards. Option D: field instruments supplied and installed according to the vendor's standards. The vendor provides the functional specification, special tools, special test equipment, drawings, and documents. The vendor's instrumentation standards must be accepted by the principal. Option E: field instrumentation, control room instrumentation, and auxiliary room (FAR) instrumentation supplied and installed to the principal's standards. The required control and instrumented protective function (IPF) functionality are pre-configured in the FAR instrumentation. The vendor's scope includes the functional specification, special tools, special test equipment, drawings, and documents. The vendor must be deemed competent by the principal and capable of managing complex interfaces between other equipment and vendors. Option F: field instrumentation, control room instrumentation, and FAR instrumentation supplied and installed to the vendor's standards, with each instrument tagged according to the principal's tagging system. The required control and IPF functionality are pre-configured in the FAR instrumentation. The vendor's scope includes the functional specification, special tools, special test equipment, drawings, and documents. The vendor's instrumentation standards must be accepted by the principal. Specification for package units. Limits of supply. The vendor shall provide junction boxes, electrical connections, and air supply connections at the battery limit of the skid to provide an interface for the principal's cabling and instrument air supply. The contractor shall be responsible for the interface between the equipment package and the rest of the plant. Instrumentation variety control. Except for options D and E, the field instruments control and logic sequence system, IPS, logic solver, accessories and installation materials of the equipment package, and instrumentation shall be supplied in accordance with the principal's project list of selected instrument vendors and equipment, which shall be supplied together with the requisition. Control and IPF SEF. General. Control and IPF for the equipment package shall be implemented in separate systems unless allowed by IPF SIL determination. In any case, the principal's approval shall be obtained if control and IPF SIF functions are to be implemented together in one system. Control. Control equipment, CPU, power supply units, and internal communication buses shall be redundant. Control input cards and control output cards shall be redundant unless single-loop integrity is implemented. The equipment package control system shall communicate with the plant DCS or SCADA for indications and alarms as described in the following section. IPF, PLC-based IPS logic solver should be applied and may also be used for solid-state or magnetic core IPSs, logic solvers. Communication to the plant's DCS, communication between the packaged unit control system and IPS logic solver, and the plant DCS shall be implemented via galvanically isolated serial communication links using the Modbus RTU protocol. Redundancy requirements shall be indicated in the requisition. The contractor shall ensure that the equipment package vendor details the hardware and software requirements with the DCS vendor to enable intersystem communication. All signals generated from the equipment package control system and IPS, logic solver, shall be available for transmission to the plant DCS within 1 second. The vendor shall indicate the refresh rate of analog signals in his system. The contractor shall specify the amount and type of data that will be transmitted to the DCS, together with the required faceplates, graphics, trends, etc., which shall be made available on the DCS operator interface. The equipment package vendor shall configure his system for transmitting the specified amount and type of data and work out with the DCS vendor how the data will be received, together with the required presentation format at the operator interface. Where the equipment package unit control system, or IPS logic solver, makes use of another transmission protocol as a standard, the equipment package vendor shall confirm with the DCS vendor that this particular protocol can be implemented in the plant DCS. The vendor shall further demonstrate that the protocol is industry tested and proven. The principal's approval shall be obtained for the use of such transmission protocols. The contractor shall have the final responsibility of ensuring satisfactory communications with the plant DCS. Functional, performance and interface test. The vendor shall prepare a FAT procedure and schedule for the contractor and principal's approval. The purpose of this FAT is to demonstrate with a total system functional test that the operation of the control, monitoring, IPF, and logic systems included in the equipment package perform as specified in the requisition. The functional test shall include the communication link to the plant DCS. The vendor shall provide the necessary equipment to demonstrate the full functionality of the communication links. The functional test record shall include all the preset values. The contractor shall prepare a punch list of non-conforming items and correct them before the functional test is agreed as complete. Drawings and documents. Documentation to be provided with the quotation. The contractor shall obtain from the vendor the necessary documents and drawings that will assist him in the option selection process. This includes documents describing vendor competence, the availability of instrumentation in terms of the scope of supply options described, and the standards to be used for instrumentation. Documentation to be provided with the equipment. Documentation shall be provided as detailed in the general specifications for equipment packages. Unless specified differently in project or local site requirements, at least the following instrumentation documentation shall be provided. 1. Instrumentation loop and block diagrams for the control and operation of the equipment, showing all instrumentation together with connections required, using the principal's instrument symbols and tag numbering system. 2. Functional logic diagrams and function descriptions for startup, sequence control, IPF, and emergency shutdown procedures. 3. A list of all instruments giving the make and type, operating data, and length of thermowells. 4. Typical process hookup drawings. 5. Equipment layout drawings showing the location of the instruments, junction boxes, local instrument panels, the cable routing between the individual instruments, junction boxes, and panels. 6. If cable junction boxes are included in the supply of the equipment, the documentation shall include terminal arrangement, signal wire allocation, and the make, type, and size of the cable glands. 7. All equipment calculation sheets, e.g. for control valves and flow measuring devices. 8. A list of the trip and alarm settings. 9. Full documentation of all application software for the equipment package and copies of the program listing. The principal shall specify whether the source codes for the software are also required. 10. All operations and maintenance manuals for the equipment package. 11. Spare parts interchangeability record. Where possible, the electronic version, ESPR, should be used. 12. FAT procedure and schedule. 13. Any other documents that may be requested by the principal. After-sales service. General. If there is a local representation, the vendor shall indicate what services can be provided on site, in what manner, and within what times. The vendor shall quote for the various forms of maintenance and support service agreements he can offer, plus details of his spare parts holding. Site support during construction and commissioning. The vendor shall quote for support to check whether or not the system installation conforms to the vendor's specification, as well as for startup assistance. Training. The vendor shall quote what training can be provided both at his works and on site for instrument, maintenance, and design engineers, maintenance technicians, and operators. For each training program, the following particulars shall be provided: types of courses, duration of courses, cost per course per person and maximum number of participants at vendor's works and at site, training documentation provided, prerequisite knowledge of the participants, scope of the course, and who should attend it.